Jake Morrison sat in the corner of Murphy's bar on Kepler Station, nursing his third beer of the evening. The dim lighting and thick smoke made it easy to blend into the shadows, which was exactly how he liked it. After 15 years as a mercenary, he had learned that the best information came from people who forgot you were listening. The bar was full of the usual crowd. Smugglers, traders, bounty hunters, and worse sat at scattered tables throughout the room. Most spoke in hushed voices about their latest jobs or complained about the falling prices for their services. Jake had heard it all before, but tonight was different. Tonight, 3 figures sat at a table near the back wall, and their conversation made Jake's blood run cold. The first was a Vorthak warrior named Krell. His people were known across the galaxy as the finest blade fighters ever born. They stood 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and reflexes faster than a striking snake. Krell had killed over 200 beings in single combat. His reputation was so fearsome that most enemies surrendered rather than face his curved swords. The second was a Zolonian female called Sis. Her species looked almost human, except for their pale green skin and completely black eyes. The Zelonians were masters of poison and could kill with a single touch. Sis was one of their best. She could make death look like natural causes or create toxins that caused unimaginable pain before the end came. The third was a cybernetic Kree hunter known only as Unit 47. Half his body had been replaced with military-grade machinery. His left arm was a weapon that could punch through starship hulls. His right eye could see heat signatures from 3 miles away. The Kree had built him to be the perfect killing machine. These 3 beings had never met before tonight, but they all belonged to the same organization. The Galactic Assassination Guild was the most feared criminal group in known space. If you had enough credits and wanted someone dead, they would make it happen. No target was too dangerous. No security was too tight. No location was too remote. Until now. Jake watched as the 3 assassins leaned closer together. Their voices were barely whispers, but his enhanced hearing implants caught every word. 50 million credits, Sis said, her voice like silk over steel. I have never seen a contract worth so much money. Krell's 4 arms moved restlessly. The target is a small research team. 5 humans on a frontier world called New Dakota. They have minimal security, no military escort, no planetary defenses. Unit 47's mechanical eye whirred as it focused. The job should be simple: eliminate all witnesses. Destroy their research, leave no evidence. Then why are we still sitting here? Sis asked. Why has no one taken this contract? The 3 assassins looked at each other in silence. Finally, Krell spoke. Because the last crew who took a human termination contract never came back. Jake's hand tightened around his beer glass. He had heard rumors, but nothing concrete. Stories whispered in dark corners about crews that vanished after targeting humans. Most mercenaries dismissed them as spacer tailies meant to scare rookies. Neither did the backup team, Unit 47 added, or the cleanup crew sent to find them. Sis laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You cannot be serious. They are humans, soft, weak, short-lived creatures. What could they possibly do to trained killers like us? Krell's warrior pride should have made him agree. His people had conquered 12 star systems through strength of arms. They feared nothing in the galaxy, but instead he actually shivered. 3 years ago, he said quietly, a hegemony death squad killed a human family on Tau Ceti Prime. Parents, children, even their pet animal. It was supposed to look like a robbery gone wrong. What happened? Unit 47 asked. The humans found out it was murder. Then they found out who did it. Then they found out who ordered it. Then they found out who funded it. Krell paused to drink from his cup with one of his 4 hands. His other 3 hands moved nervously, as if reaching for weapons that were not there. Within 6 months, every member of that death squad was dead. Not just dead, hunted down across a dozen worlds and executed. The hegemony official who gave the order was found in his secure bunker with his throat cut. The crime boss who funded the operation disappeared from his heavily guarded compound. Even the arms dealer who sold them the weapons was killed in his sleep. Sis leaned back in her chair. Professional assassins die all the time, it proves nothing. You do not understand, Krell continued. This was not the work of other assassins. This was not military action, this was ordinary humans. Shop owners. Ship mechanics, cargo haulers. People with no combat training and basic weapons. Unit 47's mechanical parts clicked quietly. Impossible. Civilians cannot track and eliminate trained killers. They did not work alone, Krell explained. Every human in that sector helped them. Traders shared information. Pilots changed their routes to cut off escape paths. Engineers sabotaged ships and equipment. Doctors refused to treat the wounded killers. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He had served with human military units and knew they were effective soldiers. But this was something different. This was an entire species acting as one organism. The worst part, Krell went on, was how they did it. No torture, no cruelty, just cold, methodical elimination. They tracked down everyone involved, no matter how small their part. The getaway driver, the information broker, the corrupt port official who let them land without inspection. All dead within the year. Sis was no longer smiling. How many humans died in the original attack? 4, 2 adults and 2 children. And how many beings did the humans kill in response? Krell counted on his fingers. 47 confirmed. Dead, dozens more missing and presumed eliminated. 3 criminal organizations completely destroyed. 1 government official executed in his own office. The table fell silent. Jake realized he was holding his breath. Unit 47 spoke first. The contract on New Dakota. What kind of research are these humans doing? Archaeological work, Sis replied. Studying some old ruins. Nothing that should threaten anyone. Then why does someone want them dead badly enough to pay 50 million credits? Krell asked. None of them had an answer. Jake finished his beer and stood up slowly. He had heard enough. These 3 killers, beings who had never shown fear in their lives, were genuinely terrified of taking a contract against humans. That told him everything he needed to know about how the galaxy really saw his species. As he walked toward the door, he heard Sis speak one last time. I have killed over 300 beings in my career. Politicians, crime bosses, military leaders, even other assassins. But I will not target humans. The risk is too great. Agreed, Unit 47 said. The Guild should remove all human contracts from the board permanently. They will never do that, Krell replied. Too much money involved. Then they will keep losing assassins, Sis concluded. And eventually the humans will notice that we exist. Jake stepped out into the corridor and took a deep breath of recycled station air. Behind him, 3 of the galaxy's most dangerous killers continued their conversation in frightened whispers. He had learned something important tonight, something that explained why human merchant ships were never pirated anymore, and why human colonies were left alone by raiders. His people had a reputation, not for being the strongest or fastest or most technologically advanced, but for being absolutely, completely, terrifyingly thorough when it came to protecting their own. Jake smiled as he walked back to his quarters. Tomorrow he would send a message to his contacts in human space. Someone needed to know that 50 million credits had been offered for human lives on New Dakota, and someone needed to make sure those researchers knew they were in danger. Dr. Lisa Baker wiped the sweat from her forehead and stepped back from the ancient stone wall. The alien symbols carved into the dark rock seemed to glow in the harsh light of New Dakota's twin suns. After 6 months of careful work, her team was finally making real progress translating the mysterious writing. Amy, come look at this, Lisa called to her linguist. I think we found something important. Amy Chun hurried over from her workstation, her tablet computer clutched in her hands. She was the youngest member of the team at 26, but her gift for languages was extraordinary. She could speak 12 human tongues and had already learned to read 4 different alien scripts. What did you find? Amy asked, adjusting her wide-brimmed hat to block the burning sunlight. Lisa pointed to a section of wall they had uncovered that morning. The stone was different here, darker and smoother than the rest. The symbols carved into it were also different. Instead of the flowing, curved lines they had seen everywhere else, these marks were sharp and angular. "Look at the style," Lisa said. "This does not match anything else we have found in the ruins." Amy held up her tablet and took several high-resolution photographs. The computer immediately began comparing the new symbols to their existing database. Within seconds it found matches. "Lisa," Amy whispered, her voice filled with excitement and fear. "These symbols are not alien. What do you mean? They are human, ancient human writing. But not from any known Earth civilization?" Pete Harris looked up from where he was carefully digging in the dirt nearby. The geologist was a big man with gentle hands that could brush dust from artifacts without damaging them. He had been working in the hot sun all morning, but he stopped everything when he heard Amy's words. "That is impossible," Pete said, walking over to join them. "Humans never left Earth before we developed spaceflight 300 years ago." Amy shook her head, staring at her tablet screen. "The computer is certain. These symbols match Proto-Germanic runes mixed with what looks like early Celtic script. But they are arranged in patterns I have never seen before." Nick Sullivan emerged from the research station's main building, carrying his daily security report. The former Marine was responsible for keeping the team safe, though there had been little danger on this remote world. New Dakota was far from any major shipping lanes, with no valuable resources and no native life forms larger than insects. "What are you three looking so worried about?" Nick asked, noting the serious expressions on their faces. Lisa explained their discovery while Amy continued photographing the wall. Nick listened without interruption, his soldier's instincts already alert for potential problems. "So you are saying humans were here thousands of years ago?" Nick asked when Lisa finished. "Maybe longer," Amy replied. "These runes are similar to writing systems that disappeared from Earth over 2,000 years ago. But they have been modified in ways that suggest centuries of separate development." Pete knelt down and carefully brushed more dirt away from the base of the wall. "If humans were here that long ago, where did they come from? How did they get here? More importantly," Nick added, "what happened to them?" Amy spent the rest of the day photographing and cataloging the human symbols. As the afternoon wore on, she began to make sense of the strange writing. The story it told made her hands shake as she typed her translation notes. "Lisa," Amy called out as the sun began to set, "you need to see this translation." The team gathered around Amy's workstation inside their climate-controlled research building. She had connected her tablet to the main display screen so everyone could see her work. "The writing tells a story," Amy began. "It talks about humans who were taken from Earth by alien slave raiders thousands of years ago. They were brought to this region of space to work in mines and factories." "Slaves?" Pete asked, his voice angry. "Yes, but that is not the important part. The important part is what happened next." Amy touched her tablet, and new text appeared on the screen. According to this, there was a great war happening between different alien civilizations. It had been going on for centuries. Entire species were being wiped out. Billions of beings were dying. Nick frowned. "What does this have to do with the human slaves?" The war was being won by something called the Devourers. They were a machine race that consumed everything in their path. Stars, planets, entire solar systems. Nothing could stop them. Lisa felt a chill despite the warm evening air. "Go on." "The humans were on a slave world when the Devourers attacked. The alien overseers fled, leaving the humans to die. But instead of waiting for death, the humans did something no one expected." Amy paused, double-checking her translation. "They organized. Not just the humans on their world, but humans on every slave world in the region. They used the abandoned alien communication systems to coordinate across dozens of star systems." "How many humans are we talking about?" Nick asked. "The writing is not clear about exact numbers." but it mentions 10,000 worlds of bondage and millions of the Earthborn children. Pete whistled softly. Millions of humans scattered across thousands of worlds, somehow working together. It gets stranger, Amy continued. The humans did not try to escape. They did not try to hide. Instead, they declared war on the Devourers. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning system. They what? Lisa asked. They declared war. A species that had been enslaved for generations decided to fight a machine race that had conquered half the galaxy. Nick laughed, but there was no humor in it. That sounds like humans. Too stubborn to know when they are beaten. Amy touched her tablet again. The writing describes the war. It lasted for 50 years. The humans had no advanced technology, no warships, no military training, but they had something else. What? They never gave up? Every time the Devourers destroyed a human force, more humans appeared. Every time they conquered a human world, the humans on nearby worlds would launch suicide attacks to slow them down. Amy's voice grew quieter as she read the most disturbing part of the translation. The humans did not fight to win. They fought to give the other species time to escape. They turned themselves into a weapon designed to delay the Devourers while entire civilizations fled to safety. Lisa sat down heavily in her chair. They sacrificed themselves for aliens who had enslaved them? According to this, yes. The writing calls them the species that chose death over surrender, and the guardians who held the line when all others fled. Pete looked at the symbols on the wall with new respect. What happened in the end? The war ended when the humans did something that broke the Devourers' main programming. The writing is not clear about exactly what they did, but it talks about humans who walked into the heart of the machine and spoke the words that unmade gods. Nick understood first. They hacked them. Somehow, humans without any advanced technology figured out how to hack a machine race that had conquered half the galaxy. The Devourers shut down completely, Amy confirmed. The war ended overnight. But by then, almost all. The humans in this region of space were dead. The team sat in silence, absorbing the implications of what they had discovered. This explains why the ruins are so empty, Pete said finally. This was not a normal civilization that died out gradually. This was a species that deliberately sacrificed itself to save others. Lisa stood up and walked to the window. Outside, New Dakota's twin moons were rising over the ancient ruins. We need to send this data back to Earth immediately, she said. This changes everything we thought we knew about human history. Nick was already checking their communication equipment. I will send a priority burst transmission tonight. Earth Command will want to see this right away. As the team prepared their report, none of them noticed the small surveillance drone that had been watching their camp from the hills. The drone recorded everything they said and immediately transmitted the information to a ship hiding behind. New Dakota's larger moon. On board that ship, an alien intelligence read the human translation with growing alarm. The discovery of ancient human warriors who had once defeated the Devourers was something that could never be allowed to reach Earth. The order went out that same night. The human research team had to die, and all evidence of their discovery had to be destroyed. The price of 50 million credits was authorized for any assassin willing to take the job, but as 3 frightened killers had discussed in Murphy's bar, no professional assassin was willing to target humans anymore. Someone else would have to do the job. Zek crouched in the shadows behind a cluster of rocks on New Dakota's barren hillside. The young Draxian assassin adjusted his night vision goggles and studied the human research camp below. 4 small buildings surrounded by a simple energy fence, basic motion sensors at the perimeter. No guard towers, no patrol routes, no heavy weapons. It looked almost too easy. Zek had spent 3 days watching the humans go about their daily routine. They were scientists, not soldiers. The woman called Lisa worked at the ancient ruins during the day. The linguist Amy spent most of her time at a computer. The geologist Pete dug carefully in the dirt with small brushes. Only the one called. Nick showed any military training, but he carried just a standard sidearm. force off targets with minimal security. 50 million credits waiting for whoever could eliminate them and destroy their research. Zek could not understand why every other assassin in the guild had refused such an easy job. The Draxian checked his equipment one final time. Military-grade stealth suit that bent light around his body, pulse rifle that could punch through starship, armor, explosives that would vaporize the entire camp, enhanced reflexes that made him faster than any unmodified being, cybernetic implants that let him see in complete darkness and hear a heartbeat from 50 meters away. He was 24 years old and had already completed 37 successful assassinations. His people were bred for warfare, genetically, modified for speed and strength. The Draxian military had trained him since childhood to be a perfect killer. These humans would never see him coming. Zek moved down the hillside like a shadow, his stealth suit making him nearly invisible. The motion sensors never detected his approach. The energy fence sparked briefly as he passed through it, but the disruption lasted less than a second. He reached the first building without triggering any alarms. Through a window he could see Pete Harris sleeping peacefully in his bed. The geologist would be the first to die. Zek slipped inside through the maintenance hatch he had identified during his surveillance. His footsteps made no sound on the metal floor. He drew a ceramic knife that would leave no trace evidence. Pete never woke up. The blade slid between his ribs and pierced his heart in one quick motion. The big man died without making a sound. 1 down. 3 to go. The assassin moved to the second building where Amy Chun was still awake, working late at her computer. Zek could see her through the window, typing notes about the ancient symbols. She looked tired and innocent, completely unaware that death was creeping toward her. Zek entered through the same type of maintenance hatch. Amy was so focused on her work that she did not notice the slight change in air pressure when the hatch opened. She did not hear the whisper of movement. Behind her chair, the knife slid toward her neck, but at the last second Amy turned around. "Who are you?" she gasped, seeing the wavering outline of the stealth suit. Zek cursed and lunged forward, but Amy was already moving. She threw her computer tablet at his head and rolled out of her chair. The tablet shattered against his helmet, disrupting his night vision for a crucial second. Amy screamed as she ran for the emergency alarm button on the wall. Zek fired his pulse rifle, but the energy bolt went wide and blasted a hole in the metal wall. Sparks showered down as electrical systems shorted out. The alarm began wailing across the camp. Emergency lights bathed everything in red. Amy kept screaming as she ran toward the main building where Lisa and Nick were sleeping. Zek snarled in frustration. The element of surprise was gone, but he still had superior equipment and training. These humans had nowhere to run on this empty world. Nick Sullivan burst out of the main building wearing only pants and boots, his sidearm already in his hand. The former Marine moved like a trained soldier, using the buildings for cover as he advanced toward the source of the alarm. "Amy, where are you?" Nick shouted over the noise. "Building 2, Amy called back. "Someone is trying to kill us." Pete is not answering his comm. Nick's face went hard. He spoke into his wrist communicator. "Lisa, we have an intruder." Pete may be down, get to the emergency shuttle and prep for immediate takeoff. Zek decided to end this quickly. He activated his suit's full combat mode, making him move twice as fast as any normal being. He burst out of Building 2 like a blur of motion, firing his pulse rifle rapidly. The energy bolts lit up the night, striking buildings and equipment. One blast caught Nick in the shoulder, spinning him around and knocking him to the ground. His sidearm went flying across the dirt. Amy ran toward the fallen Marine, but Zek was already there. His knife flashed in the red emergency lights, cutting a deep gash across her back. She fell forward, blood soaking through her shirt. 2 down, Zek muttered, standing over the wounded humans. 2 to go, but Nick was not finished fighting. Even with a burned shoulder, the Marine rolled sideways and grabbed his fallen weapon. He fired 3 quick shots at the assassin's center of mass. The bullets bounced off Zek's combat armor, but the impact staggered him backward. Nick kept firing, forcing the Draxian to take cover behind a damaged piece of equipment. "Lisa, get out of here now!" Nick yelled. Take the shuttle and run. Dr. Lisa Baker appeared in the doorway of the main building. She was carrying an emergency transmitter and a bag of data storage devices. Her face was pale but determined. "I am not leaving you," she said. "That is an order," Nick replied, firing 2 more shots at Zek's position. "Someone has to get this." Research back to Earth. Zek had heard enough. He lobbed a small explosive grenade toward the humans. The blast would kill all 3 at once and end this messy situation, but Nick saw the grenade coming. He threw himself on top of Amy, shielding her with his body. The explosion lifted both humans off the ground and slammed them against the side of a building. Lisa was far enough away to survive the blast, but the shock wave knocked her down. The emergency transmitter flew from her hands and skittered across the ground. Zek emerged from cover, his pulse rifle ready to finish the job. Nick and Amy were not moving. Lisa was struggling to get back to her feet, blood running from a cut on her forehead. "Dr. Lisa Baker," Zek said, his voice electronically distorted by his helmet. "Your research ends here." Lisa looked up at the wavering outline of the stealth suit. "Why?" "We are just scientists. We never hurt anyone." "You discovered something that should have stayed buried? Your findings about ancient human warriors must be destroyed." Lisa's eyes widened. "You are afraid of what we found. You are afraid of what humans did thousands of years ago." "I fear nothing," Zek replied. But his voice betrayed a hint of uncertainty. Lisa managed to stand up, swaying slightly from her injuries. "You should fear us. If the stories are true, if humans really did defeat the Devourers, then your people have made a terrible mistake coming here." "Your ancient warriors are dead," Zek said. "You are just weak scientists." "Maybe, but I already sent our research to Earth. Every human in the galaxy will know what we discovered here." Zek raised his rifle to end the conversation, but Lisa was already moving. She dove toward the emergency transmitter and activated its distress beacon. A high-powered signal burst into space, carrying her voice and the camp's coordinates. "This is Dr. Lisa Baker on New Dakota. We are under attack." "Repeat, human civilians under attack." "Pete Harris is dead. Amy Chun and Nick Sullivan are critically wounded. Unknown assassin destroyed our camp. Sending all research data on emergency frequency. Tell Earth what we found about the ancient warriors." Zek fired his rifle, but Lisa was still moving. The energy bolt missed her by inches and struck the transmitter, destroying it in a shower of sparks. But the message was already sent. The assassin stood over Lisa's crumpled form, breathing heavily inside his helmet. The job was messier than he had planned, but it was almost finished. 3 humans dead, 1 wounded and helpless. The camp was destroyed. The research equipment was slag. All he had to do was make sure Lisa Baker joined the others, then plant the remaining explosives to eliminate any trace evidence, but Zek made a crucial mistake. He assumed that a wounded scientist posed no further threat. He turned his back on Lisa to check on Nick and Amy. Lisa used those few seconds to reach a hidden weapon that Nick had taught her to use. A small pulse pistol kept in the main building for emergencies. Her hands shook as she raised it, but her voice was steady. "Hey, alien." Zek spun around just as Lisa fired. The energy bolt struck his helmet, cracking the faceplate and disrupting his optical systems. The assassin staggered backward, temporarily blinded. Lisa fired again, but her aim was off. The shot went wide. Zek recovered quickly and returned fire. His pulse rifle bolt caught Lisa in the chest, throwing her backward. She hit the ground hard and did not move. The Draxian assassin walked over to check his victims. Pete was definitely dead. Nick and Amy were unconscious and bleeding heavily. Lisa was badly wounded but still breathing weakly. Close enough, Zek decided. They would all be dead within minutes anyway. He planted his remaining explosives around the camp and set them to detonate in 10 minutes. That would give him time to reach his hidden ship and leave the planet before anyone could investigate. As Zek walked back up the hillside, he felt satisfied with his work. The humans were eliminated. Their research was destroyed, he would claim. The 50 million credit reward and prove that the guild's fears were unfounded, but Lisa Baker was not quite dead yet. Commander Steve Johnson stood on the bridge of the heavy cruiser Defiance. watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. 47 human warships hung in space around New Dakota, their weapons powered down but ready. It was the largest human fleet assembled in 20 years, all gathered for one purpose: to find the beings who had attacked their people. "Sir, the rescue teams have reached the surface," reported Lieutenant Karen Davis from her communications station. "They found the survivors." Steve nodded without taking his eyes off the display. "What is their condition?" "Dr. Lisa Baker is in critical condition but stable. Nick Sullivan has severe burns and internal injuries. Amy Chin lost a lot of blood, but will recover. They are being transported to the medical ship Aurora for treatment." "And Pete Harris?" "Dead, sir. Killed while he slept." The bridge fell silent. Pete Harris had been a civilian scientist doing peaceful research on an empty world. His murder had triggered something that the galaxy had never seen before. "Sir," called out Navigator Tony Clark from his station, "we are receiving priority messages from the civilian network." Steve turned to face him. "What kind of messages?" "Reports from human traders, miners, colonists, and ship crews across 17 sectors. They are all asking the same question: what do you need us to do?" The commander felt a chill run down his spine. In the 3 days since Dr. Baker's distress signal had reached Earth, something unprecedented had happened. Every human in known space had stopped their normal activities and started working together with a single focus: find the killers. "Show me the network traffic," Steve ordered. The main screen shifted to display a map of human space. Thousands of green dots represented human ships, stations, and colonies. Lines of light connected them, showing the flow of communications. The pattern was unlike anything Steve had ever seen. "Every human ship that left port in the last 3 days has been equipped with sensor packages and tracking equipment," explained Lieutenant Davis. "Cargo haulers are scanning every ship they encounter. Passenger liners are recording all alien passengers. Mining crews are monitoring space traffic in remote systems." "What about the trade networks?" Steve asked. "Human merchants have stopped trading with any species that will not provide information about recent Assassin Guild activities. Our economic analysts estimate that 70% of galactic commerce has been disrupted." Steve walked closer to the display. 70%? "Yes, sir. Humans handle most of the galaxy's cargo transport, technical maintenance, and financial services. When we stop working, everything else starts breaking down." The tactical officer, Major Ben Parker, looked up from his station. "Sir, we are getting reports of equipment failures across multiple alien worlds. Humans have stopped providing technical support for critical systems." "What kind of systems?" "Power plants, communication networks, water treatment facilities, atmospheric processors, anything that uses human-designed or human-maintained technology." Steve understood what was happening. The human civilian population was not just gathering information. They were applying economic pressure on a galactic scale. Any species that refused to help find the assassins would find their technology failing and their trade networks collapsing. "Sir," Lieutenant Davis called out. "Priority message from Earth Command. Put it through." The screen shifted to show Admiral Helen Brooks, the highest-ranking officer in the human fleet. Her face was stone cold. "Commander Johnson, you are authorized to use any means necessary to locate and capture the beings responsible for the New Dakota attack. The civilian network has identified several leads. I am transmitting the coordinates now." "Understood, Admiral." "What are our rules of engagement?" "There are no rules, Commander." "Bring me the killers alive if possible. If not possible, bring me proof that they are dead. Either way, make sure the galaxy understands that attacking human civilians has consequences." The transmission ended. Steve looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. They were all professionals, but he could see the cold anger in their eyes. "Plot a course for the Draconis system," he ordered. "Maximum speed?" As the Defiance jumped to hyperspace, Steve received an update from the civilian network. The information made him smile for the first time in 3 days. A human cargo pilot named Danny Rodriguez had spotted a Draxian ship leaving the new Dakota system just hours after the attack. Danny had been hauling mining equipment to a nearby world and had recorded the ship's energy signature out of habit within hours. That energy signature had been compared to every ship in the human database. The ship belonged to a known assassin named Zek, and its destination was a criminal hideout in the Dracona system. But that was just the beginning. Human intelligence networks had also identified the aliens who had hired Zek, a shadow organization called the Preservation Council, made up of beings from several different species who wanted to keep humanity's ancient warrior history secret. The Council had made a fatal mistake. They had hired multiple assassins over the years to eliminate humans who got too close to discovering their species' true past. Most of those assassinations had been made to look like accidents or natural deaths, but the human civilian network had found patterns that no government intelligence agency had ever detected. Missing scientists, dead researchers, destroyed archaeological sites, all connected by one common factor. They had all been studying evidence of ancient human warriors. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Davis, "we are receiving a transmission from the Dracona system." "It is from Zek himself." Steve raised an eyebrow. "The assassin is trying to communicate with us?" "Yes, sir. He is requesting safe passage off-world in exchange for information about his employers. Put him through." The screen showed a young Draxian male in what looked like a ship's cockpit. He appeared nervous and kept looking over his shoulder as if expecting attack. "Human commander," Zek said in accented English. "I wish to make a deal." "You murdered innocent people," Steve replied coldly. "What makes you think we want to deal with you?" "Because I can give you the beings who hired me. The Preservation Council has been killing your people for decades. I have proof." Steve considered this. Getting the assassin was important, but destroying the organization behind him would send a much stronger message. "What kind of proof?" "Names, locations, financial records, communication logs, everything you need to find them all." "In exchange for what?" "Safe passage to neutral space. I know what happens to beings who kill humans. I have seen the stories. I do not wish to disappear like the others." Steve almost laughed. The young assassin had finally realized what the Guild veterans already knew. Killing humans brought consequences that no amount of money could make worthwhile. "You will surrender yourself and provide all the information you have," Steve said. "In return, you will receive a fair trial under human law instead of being hunted across the galaxy by angry civilians." Zek's face went pale. "A human trial? For killing humans? Those are your options. Surrender now, or spend the rest of your very short life running from every human in space." The assassin looked around his cockpit again, probably checking his weapons and defenses. Steve could see him weighing his chances of fighting or fleeing against the certainty of human justice. "I accept your terms," Zek said finally. "I am transmitting my location and powering down my weapons." Within an hour, Zek was in custody aboard the Defiance. The young Draxian looked smaller and more frightened than he had on the screen. He clutched a data storage device containing everything he knew about the Preservation Council. As Steve reviewed the intelligence, he realized that this was bigger than anyone had imagined. The Council had been operating for over a century, eliminating any evidence that ancient humans had once saved the galaxy from destruction. They were terrified that modern humans might discover their true potential. "Sir," Lieutenant Davis called. "Out. We are receiving reports from across the galaxy. Multiple arrests are being made." "Who is making the arrests?" "Local governments, sir. They are turning over council members to human custody voluntarily." Steve understood. The economic pressure was working. Alien governments could not afford to protect a few criminals when their entire civilizations depended on human cooperation. "How many have been captured so far?" 37 confirmed arrests in the last 6 hours. The number is climbing rapidly. Steve looked at the tactical display showing human ships across 17 sectors. Each green dot represented ordinary civilians who had dropped everything to help find their people's killers. No government in galactic history had ever mobilized so completely or so quickly. No military force had ever had such perfect intelligence gathering. No economic weapon had ever been so devastatingly effective, and all of it had been organized by civilians with no central command structure, no formal training, and no advanced technology beyond basic communication systems. "Sir," Major Parker called out, "we are receiving a transmission from the Zalonian government. They are requesting immediate negotiations to end the economic blockade. Tell them we will consider negotiations after all council members are in custody." Steve replied. Similar messages were pouring in from dozens of alien governments. The galaxy's economy was collapsing, and everyone knew that only human cooperation could fix it, but the humans were not interested in economics right now. 6 months later, Jake Morrison sat in the same corner booth at Murphy's Bar on Kepler Station. The place looked exactly the same, but everything else had changed. The conversations were different now. The fear was gone, replaced by something much more interesting. Respect. Jake sipped his beer and listened to the quiet discussions at nearby tables. Smugglers talked about new safety protocols for ships carrying human passengers. Bounty hunters shared stories about criminals who had surrendered rather than face human justice. Arms dealers complained about the collapse of the assassination market, but the most telling change was the empty table in the back corner. The table where 3 of the galaxy's most feared assassins had once refused a 50 million credit contract. That table had been empty for months now. Unit 47 had been found dead in his hideout on Zarium Prime, killed by a human mining crew who recognized his cybernetic signature. Sis had disappeared completely after her ship was tracked to the outer rim. Krell had actually turned himself in to human authorities, claiming that living in fear was worse than facing trial. The Galactic Assassination Guild no longer existed. Not because it had been destroyed by military action, but because no professional killer would take contracts anymore. The risk was simply too great. Jake's thoughts were interrupted when someone slid into the seat across from him. It was Dr. Lisa Baker, looking healthy and strong despite the scars on her face from her injuries on New Dakota. "Hello, Jake," she said with a smile. "I hear you were the one who warned us that we were in danger." Jake shrugged. "I sent a message to some contacts. Did not do much good, considering what happened." "You probably saved our lives," Lisa replied. "Nick had time to prepare basic defenses because of your warning. Without those few extra security measures, none of us would have survived." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the other patrons of the bar. Jake noticed that several aliens quickly looked away when they saw Lisa. Her face had become famous across the galaxy as the scientist who had uncovered humanity's hidden history. "How is your research going?" Jake asked. "Better than ever. We have funding from 12 different human colonies now. The Earth government has declared our work a priority project, and we are getting help from some unexpected sources." "Such as?" Lisa smiled. "Alien archaeologists who have been hiding evidence of ancient human warriors for decades. Turns out there were sites on over 40 different worlds, all of them sealed or destroyed by the Preservation Council." Jake raised his eyebrows. "They found that many sites?" "The council was very thorough. Any evidence that humans had once saved the galaxy was eliminated. Archaeological teams that got too close to the truth had accidents. Researchers who asked too many questions disappeared, but not anymore." "Not anymore," Lisa agreed. "The trials made everything public. 73 council members from 16 different species, all of them admitting to decades of cover-up and murder." Jake had watched parts of the trials on the news feeds. The proceedings had been broadcast live across the galaxy, showing human justice in action. No torture, no cruelty, just methodical examination of evidence and fair punishment for crimes, but the real message had been clear to everyone watching. Harm humans and face the consequences. "What happened to the assassin?" Jake asked. "The young Draxian who attacked your team." Lisa's expression grew serious. "Zek was sentenced to life in prison on a human penal colony. He will spend the rest of his life helping to repair the damage his people did to other worlds. Hard labor, but he will be treated fairly." "That seems almost merciful considering what he did." Pete's family requested mercy, Lisa explained. They said that Pete would not have wanted revenge, just justice, so we gave him justice, Jake nodded. He had heard about the Harris family's statement during the trial. Pete's wife and children had asked the court to show compassion, even for their husband's killer. It had been broadcast across the galaxy, showing aliens a side of humanity they had never seen before. The conversation was interrupted when a news report began playing on the bar's main screen. The anchor was a human woman reporting from Earth. In other news, the Galactic Trade Commission announced today that human-alien commerce has returned to normal levels for the first time since the New Dakota incident. Economic analysts credit the return to new safety protocols that guarantee protection for human civilians in all sectors. The report switched to an interview with an alien trade official who looked nervous despite the friendly questioning. "We want to make it absolutely clear that human safety is our highest priority," the official said. "New regulations require all member species to report any threats against human personnel immediately. We have also established emergency response teams in every major system," Jake chuckled. "They are still scared." "Can you blame them?" Lisa asked. "In 6 months, humans shut down 70% of galactic commerce, tracked down criminals across 17 sectors, and put the most powerful criminal organization in the galaxy out of business. All without firing a shot in anger." "Well, mostly without firing shots." Lisa's expression grew cold. "The Preservation Council made the mistake of trying to fight back. When they hired mercenaries to attack human colonies, they learned what real human warfare looks like." Jake remembered those 3 days of actual combat. Human military forces had moved with precision and overwhelming force, eliminating every mercenary unit that had accepted council contracts. The battles had been brief but decisive. "How many mercenary companies were destroyed?" Jake asked. "All of them. 47 different groups from 9 species. Some surrendered when they realized what they were facing. Others fought to the end. None of them survived as functioning organizations." The news report continued with footage from the trial of the council's leadership. The camera showed alien beings in custody, their faces filled with resignation and fear. "The final member of the Preservation Council was sentenced today," the anchor reported. "This concludes the largest criminal trial in galactic history. All defendants were found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder, destruction of historical evidence, and crimes against sapient beings." Jake watched as the report showed human families speaking about their lost loved ones. Scientists, explorers, archaeologists, and researchers who had been murdered over the decades to hide the truth about ancient human warriors. "Do you think it was worth it?" Jake asked Lisa. "All the fear and economic chaos, just to get justice for some murders?" Lisa looked at him with surprise. "You really do not understand, do you?" "Understand what?" "This was never just about getting justice for the murders. This was about making sure it never happens again." Lisa gestured toward the bar around them. "Look at this place. 6 months ago, aliens here talked about humans as if we were just another species. Useful for some things, but nothing special. Today, they talk about us the way they talk about natural disasters. Something to be respected and avoided." Jake looked around and realized she was right. The conversations he was hearing were different. Aliens spoke about humans with careful respect, the way someone might discuss a sleeping predator. "The galaxy learned something important," Lisa continued. "Humans do not just seek revenge. We seek justice. And we will use every resource, every contact, every advantage we have to get it. We do not stop until the job is done." A new customer entered the bar, and Jake recognized him immediately. It was Krell, the 4-armed Vorthak warrior who had once sat at the back table refusing human contracts. But now he wore the orange jumpsuit of a convict on work release. Krell saw Lisa and walked over to their table. He moved carefully, respectfully, like someone approaching a superior. "Dr. Baker," he said, his voice filled with genuine regret. "I want to apologize again for my people's part in the cover-up. The Vorthak Council should have revealed the sites on our worlds decades ago." Lisa nodded politely. "Your cooperation During the trials was noted, Krell. Your sentence was reduced because of it. I know, and I am grateful. But I also want you to know that my people have learned from this. We will never again participate in hiding human history. Krell turned to leave, then paused. There is something else you should know. The guild is officially dissolving next month. The remaining members voted to end all operations permanently. All operations? Jake asked. Yes, no more assassination contracts. No more murder for hire. The guild's charter is being revoked, and its assets are being turned over to victim compensation funds. After Krell left, Jake and Lisa sat in silence for several minutes. So what happens now? Jake finally asked. Humans have made their point. The galaxy knows not to mess with your people. What comes next? Lisa smiled, but there was something dangerous in her eyes. Now we continue our research. We are learning more about what our ancestors accomplished. And the more we learn, the more we understand what modern humans are capable of. Such as? Did you know that those ancient human warriors did not just defeat the Devourers? They reprogrammed them, turned the galaxy's greatest threat into its protectors. The machine race that had consumed star systems became guardians that defended innocent worlds. Jake felt a chill. What are you saying? I am saying that human potential is far greater than anyone realized. Including humans themselves, the galaxy was right to be afraid. Lisa stood up to leave.